For the first review of my Star Trek review series, I'm going to be covering the novel Mission to Horatius, or Horatius, I'm not entirely sure how it's pronounced. It was published in 1968 as a children's novel. It is the only original story to be published while the series was still on the air, and is also the first original Star Trek novel in general, only being preceded by a book which contained episode adaptations. The story of Mission to Horatius is that the USS Enterprise has been out in space for over a year straight, so the crew are getting very bored, and the ship is running low on supplies, but Captain Kirk refuses to turn around and return home until the current mission has been completed. Some of the crew members start to experience a disease called cafard, which is caused by extreme boredom, and basically makes the victim go crazy. Supposedly, it is highly contagious, which I find weird, as you think it would be some sort of mental issue rather than an actual germ or virus. So basically the mission that is underhand is that the Federation has received a distress call from the Horatius system, a system which is far out in space and beyond where the Federation typically goes. The Enterprise basically goes to each of the three worlds and has to figure out where the distress signal came from, what the problem was, and how to resolve it. In the novel, I felt as though the writer was attempting to make Kirk seem brash and impulsive like on the show, but he comes off as out of character and somewhat arrogant at points. This includes putting the lives of his entire crew at risk simply because he states that he doesn't want to ruin the Enterprise's perfect reputation of never turning down a mission. Also, Spock simply says in a logical fashion about how important this reputation really is. This isn't something that I would picture Spock saying, as I would rather expect him to say it is logical to turn around. Anyway, each of the three planets visited have varying levels of technology, and I find the crew's interaction with each of the societies interesting, except that a typical pattern seems to present itself, where the crew goes down to the planet, meets with the leaders of the society, are completely rejected, and then must escape. This pattern follows on each of the planets with a little variation, as if it were an early video game plot. As for continuity, well, the episode mentions that the trouble with tribbles has happened recently, and judging by information on Memory Beta, the novel seems to take place in the year 2267, which would be during the second season of the show, or more specifically between the episodes The Trouble with Tribbles and Bread and Circuses. Bread and Circuses, oddly enough, seems to have a few aspects in common with this novel, which I won't spoil. Overall, I really enjoyed the plot and overall ideas that were presented in this novel, especially the society on the second planet that was visited. The story felt very Star Trek and worked. I do wish that the plot was a little bit less predictable as it went along, but I can't complain about that too much as it is a children's novel. My one big complaint, though, is how a lot of people seem to act out of character. So I would have to say that I recommend this novel to younger Star Trek fans, as well as fans of these type of novels. Although from what I have heard, there are much better Star Trek novels available nowadays. We will just have to see.